All right, everybody, welcome to Tesla Today. So in this show, we're going to show you the effectiveness of full self-driving beta. We're going to show you videos, we're going to show you statistics, and how exactly this is being rolled out. We've got Jeff Lutz with us, and he's a chief quality officer in the past with Fortune 100s. He is very familiar with how software should be rolled out. We've got Alexandra Merz and Nikhil with us. And last night, they actually reran the Dan O'Dowd and Ross Gerber intersection. And we're going to show you those videos as we move along. So welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining.
Hi, Herbert.
Hi, Herbert.
Okay, let's get started with some statistics first. So just to set the stage here, this is the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, NHTSA, and they showed for 2022, human drivers are terrible. They had 42,795 people died in motor vehicle traffic crashes, and if you look in the second line here, another 1.5 million crashes resulting in injuries and 3.6 million causing property damage. This means a total of 5.25 collisions happened over the course of a single year. This is human drivers. They are absolutely terrible. So there needs to be something to be done to fix this. And that's why we see NHTSA actually supporting and making sure that any kind of work to automate driving and make it more safe is what everybody's trying to do. This is statistics sent out by Tesla themselves. And you can see here, this is the number of vehicle accidents per million miles in 2022. And the total US fleet, this is just regular cars, there's 1.53 accidents per million miles. And you can see that when Tesla has autopilot engaged, it's 0.18 versus the 1.53. That's already a 9 times safer situation here. FSD beta, this is city streets, not just highway miles. You're 0.31 accidents per million miles, which is already 5 times safer than total vehicles fleet. So in general, that is how this all worked out. Any thoughts from the group here on this general stats?
I would just say that this is the way these large problems, should be approached, where you kind of zoom out and you look at the problem statement at hand, and you have the opportunity, you have the ability to go in and improve a situation. And sometimes people want to wait and for, like, what's the solution that gets it to zero? Well, there's a solution that's being worked on that will get to zero. But why wouldn't you want to get started with a solution that cuts it in half or improves it by 2x or 3x? And here we're sitting with something that is arguably at 5x an improvement rate. And why wouldn't you want to take this and kind of drive this enable this for iterative improvement is really the question at hand. It's not really a question if you look at the statistics and what we're going after. So I think the statistics are really telling. I think there's many ways you can slice data too. I think you can come back and look at the total vehicle fleet. So the 1.53 million, how many of those have active safety features? How many don't? I think regardless, I think you're going to find that there's a several factor improvement by the track that Tesla has us on, and we should be continuing to iterate and improve upon
And
that.
improving quickly.
Okay, so what we're going to do next is we're going to actually show you the actual video that Ross Gerber and Dan O'Dowd did. And then after that, we're going to show you videos of what Nikhil and Alexandra did immediately just last night. And they can explain to you a little bit more detail of what actually happened. So Ross Gerber is a longtime investor in Tesla. He was taking Dan O'Dowd with him in his car, showing him the effectiveness of full self-driving. They drove for an hour. And in this one intersection, the car did not appear to slow down and stop at the stop sign. We're going to examine exactly what happened. But you have to keep in mind that Dan O'Dowd is the CEO of Green Hills Software, which is a competitor to Tesla software that he's selling to other car companies. And so he has an invested interest to try to make sure that, he's been doing a lot about warning about Tesla's approach to full self-driving. He's taken out $1 million ads. So his agenda is to try to show that it's not working really well. So let's go ahead and show that video, and then we'll see how we'll take a look at it closer. But oh, there we go.
That was you braking?
I braked.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Alexandra and Nikhil, what was your reaction when you saw that?
I mean, the first time I saw it, I found it quite impressive. I didn't understand all the bitsies because obviously Ross had disengaged. There was movement of his foot. There was movement of his thumb that um, moves the little wheel on the steering yoke where you set the speed. And obviously he was intervening, and that made him stop. So while I got that, I didn't really understand, what happened when. I saw he was over the speed limit, which was 35 in that little street in Montecito. And then we took it from there, right? I mean, it wasn't something that impressed me. I also want to quickly add to what you said earlier about Danodote having vested interest in harming Tesla, which is true. My biggest point to him is always, you're trying to save humanity. I mean, that's what he's trying to do. Why don't you discuss what happens with Cruise and Waymo, right? When he starts talking about Cruise and Waymo, which are systems where he actually participates, right? These are clients, maybe for other products, but clients of his. Then I'd start taking him serious. I won't do that earlier. But let's get to Nikhil, who knows it, much more technically and who analyzed it much better.
Yeah, so I think that's a great point, Alexandra. And my first reaction after seeing that video was I was actually, in a way, a little happy to see that video. And the reason being is this is exactly the way that beta program is supposed to work. We are supposed to find out some cases like this, which are due to various reasons that needs to be solved. But then what really bothered me was the overreaction and being used this situation and definitely not a productive and constructive way. And in fact, I got a message from my sister after seeing that on a news article saying, "Oh, you should be careful driving your Tesla." And she was concerned, and I was like, "Wow, this is not good." I mean, our family has two Tesla cars and we love them. I have been testing beta software for past 6 to 9 months, and both of the cars have beta software. We have seen the progress firsthand. It has never put us in a situation where it's unsafe, and it's getting better exponentially. So I wanted to come out here, and I saw Alexandra's call to action on Twitter. And I was like, okay, well, I got to make it happen. So I immediately skipped my lunch, jumped in my car, and then 4 hours later, 4.5 hours later, I was meeting Alexandra and Tesla Boomer Papa. We had a nice lunch and we did a bunch of testing. The reason we did all these things is because we want this technology. This is the most important technology being developed right now in our time, and we want this to get better exponentially. And the only way it gets better is many people on the roads testing this in a safe manner, which is what Tesla expects all the beta testers to do. It's right there in the acknowledgement when we sign up for beta, and pay full attention, be ready to take over. I came here to find out the ground truth so that we can give productive feedback to Tesla AI team so that they can fix this. And this is exactly what that everybody should want, is a technology to improve and save lives, and it's super fun. And in fact, the funny thing is, the FSD beta drove me 4.5 hours from Morgan Hill to Santa Barbara with no intervention. It's amazing.
It is.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Okay. So thank you for that. Well spoken, Nikhil. I really appreciate that. And you guys put this in the right perspective. So obviously, this is an edge case. They were driving for an hour long. Many people have been testing FSD beta, and it's working really well. But like what you just said, it's beta. There's continuous still an issue. No one here is telling anybody that FSD beta is perfect. And in fact, when you sign up, and we'll show you kind of the agreements, we recognize that this is still kind of a trial scenario. But this is an edge case. So let's find out exactly why this happened in this particular corner. And so, Nikhil, why don't I show first we've got several videos to show. There's one where you're actually walking so people can visually see exactly what this corner looks like. And then you and Alexandra and Tesla Boomer Papa last night you did several videos to actually test different scenarios at different speeds, and we can see what happened there. Should we start with that first, the walking
Yes.
video, or do you?
Sounds good. Let's do it. Yeah.
Okay.
Car
Let's do
is
that here.
approaching. This road is 35 miles an hour, and you can see how these cars are kind of high speed, right? But then it says this is a warning sign. It says stop sign ahead. On the road it says stop ahead. Okay. And then, so the car is driving 35 miles an hour, and then if you have an offset, then it's probably going a little more quicker. So the car keeps going.
Do you pause the video?
Going. This is what the car sees. Until now, there is no stop sign, right?
Oh, sorry about that. That was you talking. Nikhil, you told me to pause the video. Go ahead.
Yeah. So basically, what we wanted to do is we wanted to understand, the intersection better and understand what different attributes are coming together for the FSD beta to behave in a specific way. What we found out was the legal speed limit on that street was 35 miles an hour. And so all the cars basically were driving much more higher, actually, what we noticed.
The lorry, remember?
Yeah, almost like tailgating, almost like rear-ended us. So
Crazy.
the cars over there were driving like 40 miles an hour and stuff, right? And so
And this is really, suburbia, Montecito, high end. The villas there are just outrageously big with beautiful driveways. You don't even see the houses from the street. And they were just dashing through there, right?
yeah, exactly. And there were like many different things going on. Number one thing was the speed limit. The second thing interesting that was going on is it was a blind turn. And so the positioning of the stop ahead sign and the actual stop, the blind turn makes it invisible
Yes.
for the car or a human to see that there is a stop sign, which is right after you take the turn, there's a stop sign right
Yeah.
there.
And you will see when Nikhil walks it, for a long time you don't see that stop sign. You see the warning sign, you see the writing on the street, but and you still have this. I mean, you have a vision and you realize it's going to turn, but you don't see anything else. And I think that's very interesting in that walking part. So if you want to go back to that,
Right. And
Yeah.
just one point before going to the video again is when I'm walking at like basically consider me being still. And keep in mind, the car is driving at 35 plus the offset miles an hour.
Yeah.
So the reaction and the immediate feedback that the car is getting is much more faster. My video may appear that there's like a huge distance between after taking the turn and the stop sign, but that's not the case. That's not
Right.
the case.
and you'll see later in the car videos.
Yeah.
But let's go and walk. Yeah.
Until the car comes here, there's a stop sign right there. And for some reason,
Nothing.
it's not able to see it. And then it cannot stop at the stop sign over there, and that's causing the problem. But if the car is in slow speed, then it detects it, it stops it. But if it's at high speed, then the human panics. I panicked and I brake and I take over and I brake to stop.
I do want to point out that thank you for taking this video, Nikhil. You can see here that the stop sign's right here, but the stop line is way down here. And so even though the video that we
Well,
saw
it
with
looks
Ross
way down,
Gerber
but it
looks
is
like,
this way.
yeah, that looks like that he ran the stop sign. He did not run the stop sign because he actually stopped right at the stop line. He did not,
He did.
yeah. Okay. So so then why don't you tell us at this point what you guys did last night? What was the experiment? What were you trying to do? And we'll show the two videos
Okay.
that you guys created.
All right, sounds good. So I think we took a very scientific approach to finding out the root cause. Instead of jumping to conclusion, I think that's the right way to get closer to the truth. So what we did is we created a hypothesis and we started with identifying some different speed brackets that we will try. and see how the beta reacts to the stop sign. So we identified 20 miles an hour, 25, 30, all these 3 tests performed as expected, and the car stopped and functioned exactly how it's supposed to behave. What we did find out that when the speed is at the legal street speed limit, and since the stop sign and the stop line is right next to each other, the car detects the stop sign even in that scenario, but then it takes a little longer to come to a full stop. It does come to a full stop. And in fact, even in the video from Ross, the car detects the car on the intersection crossing over in blue, if you can see it. I am actually convinced that the emergency braking would have never allowed that collision to happen, which is what is being claimed that Tesla FSD tried to kill them. I personally think that it was not possible. But anyways, going back to the experiment we did. So we performed all these experiments. We collected the data. We recorded the videos. We talked a lot. I think Alexandra and Tesla Boomer Papa, we were all discussing of what's happening, brainstorming, how should we improve our experiments. Our overall goal was to help the community understand what's been happening in that scenario, and just do some experiments so everybody can see it objectively of what's happening.
And I would like to add, I was there already in the afternoon with Kaz, who drove up from San Diego, and big shout out to him. And I also want to say there is just nothing like this Tesla Twitter community, right? I mean, just people standing up, taking their time and doing it. So he was here early in the afternoon, and we did try tests with him, and he's publishing his videos later today. So I knew already the setting, but nevertheless we did some preliminary, first tests that were like, okay, let's give it a full test at 35 plus allowance, which actually made it 38. So that was very similar to what Russ did. And in all these testings, afternoon and early evening, the whole street just doesn't feel like if 35 is the right speed limit. So I'm not saying that that's the basic problem, but I wasn't safe at all. And I wasn't safe at all when I watched that lorry and the other cars speeding up that hill. So it goes uphill. It is windy. It is between these huge bushes because it's protecting all these properties. And it gets to this abrupt stop. So that road, for me, looks as what a typical residential road at 25 miles per hour should be, yet it is at 35, right? So that's the whole setting. So you already know that you're uncomfortable at 35. I mean, there's one winding up there. If you do it at 35, you feel it. You're really sitting in the car moving with it. And so that's what we did. So you may want to show maybe the first video, Herbert.
Okay, well, that's very interesting, guys. Thank you for doing this, because now you've explained that the car actually does recognize this, that the stop sign, but because the stop sign is so far away, it is slowing down. But because by that point it's moving faster, just like a human driver, they have to. Almost every human driver will probably be doing the same thing, where they're slamming on the brakes. Okay, so let's go ahead and show. You did several videos. You did at 20, 25, and 30, but they all were the same result as a 30. So let's go ahead and show the 30 mile per hour video that you did.
We tried 25 or 30 last time.
25.
Try 30.
Let's try 30.
Oh, you're shy, right?
Okay.
Up there.
Yeah. And then this time let's try 30 miles an hour
Yeah.
and see how it goes.
Okay. It's fine here. Fine. Fine.
That's fine. Okay, great.
Fun.
Yeah, it was super fun. Wow.
All right, let's see. Oh, it took 35 actually. Oh, 30. 30 miles an hour. Okay. 30. It doesn't deaccelerate. Okay, so we confirm that. Yeah.
It doesn't see the sign.
And now it should stop. See, stop
It
sign.
does.
It will stop. Yeah,
Hallelujah.
it will stop.
And the wiper.
Stop. 30 was
And
good.
the wiper.
But it didn't see the warning sign. It didn't show the
It,
warning sign.
it didn't. It
Didn't
see.
react to the
Yeah.
warning sign.
And it didn't see it. It didn't show it on the screen.
And actually, you
And
know
that
That
what?
was a perfect landing. Yeah.
Wow, guys, well done. It so even though it worked really perfectly as designed.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely perfectly. Waited, checked, then creeped forward, and then advanced. I mean, the whole sequence was absolutely natural speed. That's what you would do as a human, and it fulfilled everything at 30 miles the hour.
Okay. So then you did it at 38 miles per hour. And because you said that you gave it allowance more than 35. We watch
Yeah.
that next, or do you want to set up anything or just go?
No, let's do that. So that's very comparable to what happened with Ross and no doubt.
Okay.
Yeah. This is speed road limit. Road speed limit 35 with the offset 38.
See the warning? You don't see the warning.
Well, the warning sign is too high.
Don't do
Oh,
it. Don't do it.
screaming.
It stopped in the middle of the road.
Okay.
So
In the middle.
we have performed this as well.
Yeah.
This is really, really great input actually. I'm glad we did this experiment.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Wow. Oh my god. Oh my god.
We're part of it. We can say we're part of it.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? Alex,
Oh, yeah, we were part of it.
Go ahead. Tell us what happened.
Well, so it did exactly what would have probably happened if Russ didn't disengage, meaning it stayed for a long time at 38 until he finally saw the stop sign, not the signal saying stop ahead. And then it was the line to brake and stop was too short. So it finally came to a complete stop in the middle of the intersection. There was no car there, so there wasn't another obstacle that would have made that braking more violent. It was still a doable brake for a human. You know, you weren't in a shock situation. Your seatbelt wasn't tightening. It wasn't in any stress situation. But if there would have been another car sitting there in the middle of the intersection, I would expect it to have gone much harder on the brake. And so it was what it is. It didn't respect the stop line and went into the intersection. Now, what we didn't do yet, and we may do this morning, is do a full test at exactly 35, because at that moment, the car was still set at having the allowance of 10%. That's why we weren't going at 35, but at 38, right? That's
Right.
how it was. So we may go back this morning and check it at precisely 35. That makes a difference. But what we did check, obviously, was the 30 and the 25 and the 20, which all worked perfectly.
Right. And I think, yeah, those are great points. And to add a little bit, so there are two things happening over here. The first thing is, imagine you are visiting a new town, which has hills and which has blind turns like this. A human would exactly behave how the FSD behaved today. Is right after, even though you see the stop ahead sign, the human, if it's in a new town, for example, this has happened with me personally when I'm traveling and visiting. And if the stop sign is right after the blind turn, and since I'm going at 35 to 40 miles an hour, there's a very less reaction time. So that's one thing to understand is most humans would kind of reproduce this if they drive manually. But the second thing is, important thing is, now, of course, and this is like huge props to the Tesla FSD team. The software is designed in such a manner that eventually the FSD would not be a new visitor in a new town. For example, if the FSD now, based on this experiment and what we know, adds this capability in the stack to recognize the stop ahead sign and in anticipation starts deaccelerating as soon as it sees that, then eventually it can perform the exact same expected behavior anywhere in the world. And this is huge. So even humans would not be able to do that. So Tesla FSD already proves, even though it missed this time, but I'm 100% sure it will never miss it in future as soon as this label is added in the stack.
Exactly.
So this is exactly how beta software are supposed to work. And overall, I feel like it was a well worth discussion and debate on the Twitter community. I think we all improve and learn how the technology is progressing. And yeah, so that's my 2 cents on this.
Yeah, there's something to, the laws of physics, right? I think I love how you walked and showed the angle of the stop sign and how many feet prior was a stop sign available. There's an element of physics involved here. And so when you have a human driver and you have an element of physics involved, you have human error, and then you have the physics of the situation. And now when you layer on top the full self-driving capability, it's going to take more of that human error out and just operate at the laws of physics. So yeah, I like the logic. If it could read the stop ahead sign and deaccelerate, great. But at least we know that it's going to operate, like a human at the laws of physics. And just these edge cases just have to be improved. But it's kind of proving it's equivalent in again, most situations much better, as the statistics show, than human driving.
Yeah. So,
Exactly. Yeah.
Nikhil, I like what you had said earlier, which is good, which is that once this is an edge case, once Tesla's FSD figures this out, all cars will figure this out for not only this edge case, but many of the same similar edge cases where the stop sign is in a crooked corner. You can't see it until the last see it, be able to recognize that it's stop ahead. The other point I wanted to make, though, was that the way that FSD works at this point is that if many cars with full self-driving is driving that same road, it becomes it maps it and it knows it, and it now knows that that is the crooked corner, and it will not do that anymore once it's many cars. It just so happens to be an area where very few FSD beta testers have tried already, and that's why we're seeing people in San Francisco and California have much better FSD experiences than people in Chicago or others. They just need to get more cars out there, and that will solve it. So
Yeah, and Dojo
uh,
is there for that. Yeah.
yeah. Jeff, did you
Exactly,
want
and
to?
and just one, yeah,
Okay, go
Herbert,
ahead.
sorry, and just one more
Mhm.
point. So imagine 100 visitors visiting a new town. They're renting a car, and they are all driving 40 miles an hour on this blind turn. And I would say almost 90% of them would do exactly what FSD Beta did today. Now, what's very profound to acknowledge here is once FSD takes care of this scenario, 100 different Tesla cars with FSD enabled, none of them would repeat it. So it's
That's
already
exactly it.
it's already 89 times better. We have reduced the capacity to make an error by 89 times already.
Because one car did it, uploaded the information, Dojo and Tesla addressed it, and it gets better for everybody. Let me just get one last point, which is a funny point. You just called it a crooked corner. I like that, Herbert. And I just want to make sure everybody in the Tesla Twitter community understands we had the Chuck Cook corner in Florida. This is now a Crook's corner here in Montecito, Santa Barbara.
Crook's Corner. Yeah, I think you also said, Alexandra, that it'll be great if when Tesla solves this problem, you guys will come back out again and test it again
Oh, we will.
and show that
Oh,
this problem is solved.
absolutely. Oh, yeah. I love Santa Barbara now. And now I know Alexandra.
There
So
we go.
Right. Because the whole point here is that we're admitting that this is a problem. FSD Beta needs to solve this issue, but you've discovered a edge case, and they will solve this problem, just like they solved Chuck's complicated complex left turns. Okay, so Jeff, why don't you share a little bit of your background? That you were the chief quality officer for a few Fortune 100 companies, and share a little bit of how the whole concept of FSD being used. A lot of people saying, "Hey, why are you guys doing this using regular drivers? Why not just you do it in in a test track, the very safe area with just very qualified testers before you roll this out?" Can you explain that concept?
Yeah, sure. And trials with user populations are very important, because when you're designing a piece of hardware or software, there's something you do inside of a company, and you do unit level testing, which is basically like you're doing subsections of code and you're doing testing on that chunk of code. And then you compile that code and you integrate it together, and then you run a system test profile, which is basically slamming this code with a bunch of different system test cases to make sure the code functions properly. And it doesn't do reboots. It doesn't, it's got fantastic uptime. It's got fantastic quality. And you measure the bug rates. You measure the bug rates of unit testing. You measure the bug rates internally of system testing. You inside of a company, you also have users inside of the company. You run those trials, you manage and you upload, bugs from all of these different areas. But one of the things you have to do to, to further improve is you have to expand and you have to go wider in your data set to basically raise the reliability. Again, there's many ways to raise the reliability of the product that you're working on. And the other thing you have to think about is, as a company, you make judgment calls on, obviously you have red lines. For, like in the mobile phone world, you wouldn't put a product out there that has a safety issue, for example, right? So there's things that you have red lines on. But in the case of full self driving and running something like a beta program, and there's other companies that run beta programs, there's a set of risks involved in everything. But when you kind of look at the risk, not only the risk reward, but just the stats you put up earlier in the presentation, Herbert. Right now, this chunk of software, statistically, is performing better than the population that it's going into, the existing population set, which is human driving today. So if you're Tesla and you can meaningfully improve the performance already today, even though you have not graded the product as being production released, basically out of beta, but you can meaningfully improve the performance, save lives, and improve and improve the performance in a given population set, you would go expand. You would do it safely. You would make judgment calls. That's why they started in the United States, and then they expanded to Canada, and they're making these judgment calls. But along the way, everywhere that full self-driving is installed, it is in aggregate improving the performance, the avoidance of accidents, the avoidance of crashes and incidences. The other thing you do is like all bugs. The other thing is like all bugs are not created equal, and inside of companies, they put severity ratings on their bugs. If there's a bug where the car is going to shut down and there's no redundancy, guess what? That's a high severity, sometimes called severity 0, and that software would not allowed to be allowed to be released, for example. So and Tesla would do the same, would operate in the same manner. So they do internal testing, unit testing, they do system level testing. They have a whole battery of testing they do on these releases before they're put out to the general population. But I think the kind of the uber point is it's improving the performance of the existing population set it's going into. It's meaningfully improving the performance of that. So that's why you run these beta programs, because you want to get that additional data set. And also miles in this situation, like miles equal in iterative improvement on the platform itself. And then just in terms of, I know you asked, Herbert, you asked about my background. Again, my background is in supply chain and running supply chain, both technically and running the entire operation for Motorola, Google, Lenovo in my past history. And I was also chief quality officer of Motorola and Lenovo. So I kind of had my foot on, no pun intended, on the accelerator and the brake. So I was in charge of scaling the operation, but I was also in charge of the quality of our products. So all the way from hardware, software, supply chain, suppliers, end consumer. So when the end consumer wanted to write a letter, to the CEO of our company, or to deal with I was the front facing person. I was the front facing person to our the major customers, carriers out there. So I understand. There's definitely a line drawn of like to ship product and to scale, but there's also this line of, well, how do you do it in a safe and effective manner from a quality perspective, so you actually elevate the quality experience of the end product?
Yeah, and if
Okay.
you allow, Herbert, I'd like to add, hearing Jeff's background and Nikhil's background and all our engagement and how we just spend endless hours on trying to find the truth. I mean, this is not about worshiping Elon, or this is not about Tesla above everything. This is really about trying to help, trying to set the record straight. I just want to have a huge shout out to this community. I mean, look, the two of us 24 hours ago, we didn't know each other. Now we're sitting shoulder to shoulder, and we've done this, and this will be, a friendship for the
Yeah.
rest of our lives. The three of us on Brighter, which actually five of us. I mean, there's not a day where we're not spending 1,000 DMs explaining each other what we're doing, how we're doing it, what we should criticize, what we should not, right? So this community is really something very special, and I do believe all these people throwing hate at us also have this problem that we're such a solid community and trying to make this happen, right? And just shout out for that. This is a very special connection, and we'll never forget, none of us.
Okay, let's a little summary, and then I want to continue on with a little bit more exploration of this scenario. So, number one, human drivers are absolutely terrible, terrible, terrible. It's like equivalent to 3 jumbo jets falling a day in the U.S. only, let alone the entire global kind of scenario. People are getting worse. The stats are actually getting worse. It got really better, but then it got worse because of distracted driving, people using cell phones and so forth. Okay, so to solve this problem is critical. How do we make driving safer? The next question people say is, why are you doing testing of FSD beta in the streets? That's so dangerous. How dare you test something that is in test mode to the streets? But what the data is actually showing is that supervised driving is so much safer than non-supervised driving. So what we have today with FSD beta is supervised driving. So there's a human with their hands on the steering wheel, using their eyes to drive the car, but letting the car drive itself with the 8 cameras around around it and making decisions. It's been shown now that through the data that it is so much safer. So let me show you that data. Currently today, there is already today, there's been 263 million miles of driven miles with somebody having full self-driving beta turned on. 263 million miles. So with that many millions of miles, you'd expect so many accidents, but in fact, the stats are showing that it's so much safer than just regular driving by humans. And there's 97 crashes prevented in this period of time. And
And
you can see
Herbert,
here, yeah.
yeah, so I would just like to add one more thing. So that number 97 could have been 98 if I had my Tesla on full self-driving mode a few months ago. Unfortunately, I was driving it myself, and it was due to an impatient driver creating a very weird situation. I ended up colliding with their cars. But I am one based on the video recordings. And that's another thing about Tesla cars is you have a full recording 360 of what's going on around you at any instant, right? Uh, but anyways, getting back, if I would have had, based on the analysis of those videos, my collision would have been prevented. So that number is much higher, and it should be much higher. And I would personally recommend all the beta testers to enable it. But pay attention. But this number will keep rising tremendously. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a very good point. The problem is that you don't know when an accident's been prevented. The numbers we're showing is just looking at actual accidents versus the general population, but there's so many more accidents that have been prevented because FSD beta, and I'm going to show some examples of what that looks like. Jeff, you were going to say something?
No, keep going, Herbert.
Okay. All right. So let me show you something that just here is the actual, when you decide to turn on full self-driving beta in your Tesla, you need to sign this waiver. And it says, I understand that FSD beta is still under development, not intended to be used as a fully autonomous driving system. I agree to be responsible for the safe operation of my vehicle at all times. And I understand that I must be prepared to take over control of my vehicle. And then, of course, you'll agree to these things. You won't use it in a safe. You won't use it one, and so forth. So it's just clearly, no one who is testing this believes that this is a the car is self-driving, and that's shown in the stats. The stats are showing it that people are actually safer using it.
Herbert, I think there's an important point to make, and when we talk about human driving, we think of humans as a monolith, like humans, but all humans have different reaction times. All humans have different perceptions of risk. All humans have different risk tolerance as well in terms of how close they follow and so forth. Whereas with a full self-driving computer and cameras, like there you normalize that factor out. So anybody who's thinking logically and who's looking at statistics, which you've been effectively showing throughout this presentation, and then thinking logically of like, wow, I can normalize human driving from a 95-year-old down to a 16-year-old and have normalized performance that consistently improves over time and marches to to the 5 or 6 nines. Anybody who's thinking that that's a problem or that's not the path to be on is actually kind of has nonlinear thinking, or there's something else going on, right? There's got to be something else going on, because you wouldn't logically really do anything different there.
And I can tell you one thing as a parent, how happy I would have been when my 5 children started learning driving if I could
Yes.
just put them FSD in the car. Because, as a parent, you worry when your children start driving and you have no oversight. I mean, first of all, with the Tesla app, you know now where they are. But the second thing is if they're on FSD, they come home, right? And that is the most important message out there.
Yeah. There's an occupancy network which is already active today. The car can recognize if an area in space is occupied or not by a basketball pole or another car or humans, and it knows not to hit that. And so, like you were saying earlier, Nikhil, that if even though this happened, active emergency braking could have would have stopped it possibly as well. So here's another example of another person who said that it saved them. This person pulled out into the interstate right in front of me. FSD beta reacted well and safely slowed, avoiding an accident. Let's take a look at that video. Yep. That's what you can see. It came up, and then the FSD slowed down. So this is an example of the car reacting quite quickly and immediately. I mean, when you see these videos, it sure looks like that it's pretty slow, but the reality is the car did it on its own. And so it's just it happens much faster in real life.
And I would like to give a shout out to Ross. Now, let's make this very clear. I was never happy that he was doing this trial day, and I still am not. I think we could have just all had a much quieter weekend without this whole shenanigans. But he took the time for much longer than an hour, actually, to drive around town in different situations. Without no doubt, there was a live stream which broke up, and I think there's actually not the good intentions to make this all very complicated to watch, but that's another subject. But whenever there were other moments where a human driver might have had issues, FSD performed perfectly well, and Ross pointed that out. So getting back to that situation we now discussed today, yes, Ross panicked, disengaged too quickly. There may have been action by his foot or his thumb that were not the right thing. But this is just a normal case that needs to be solved, right? I just want to make sure people understand. I don't think Ross himself, other than having should have never accepted that day, on that day performed particularly badly. It was just then taken out of the whole context.
Yeah. Okay. So I think I just want to show just reminding people again some of the earlier stats that I showed earlier, which is, currently today in 2022 anyways, 42,795 people died in a motor vehicle accident. And down here you can see 1.59, 1.5, almost 1.6 million crashes resulted in injuries. Human drivers are terrible. And I reminded people this slide that Tesla showed that already down below is 1.53 accidents in regular driving. This is humans driving in the US. There's 1.53 accidents for every million miles. And already with autopilot, which is what you use in highways, it's already almost 10 times safer using autopilot in highways. And when you use FSD beta in city streets, it's already 5 times safer, just the way it is now. So I personally am using autopilot every time I'm driving from Seattle to Vancouver. I drive that a million times, once a month for 4 months in a year. I will go to Vancouver to visit my family, and now I will never do that without turning on autopilot because I feel so much safer. because I know that when a car is in front of you, it just automatically suddenly stop, that the car will slow down. And it's so very, very effective in the highways that it's got down really, really well. And then when you're doing it in the city streets, you just feel so much safer, because when you're trying to turn left, I'm using my eyes to turn left, and you know what you'll do, right? You'll peek to the right, and then you need to peek to the left again, and then maybe peek to the right again just to make sure. But with 8 cameras and FSD turned on, and I'm driving, I feel a little bit safer, much safer, because I'm looking to the left and I'm turned to the right, and I know that the car won't go to the left if it's something, and I'm still driving. So it kind of adds that extra safety, as opposed to people thinking that no one is letting the car drive itself, and I'm going to just sleep and relax and let the car do it and watch it happen. So, any kind of final thoughts from you guys on what's happening?
Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
go
so
quick.
from my side, I think I
sorry.
have 2 points. Number one point is I would urge people to not get affected by all the blown out of proportion kind of news cycle, negativity, and stuff. I think FSD, I've been testing it for 6 to 9 months now. It's getting better exponentially. And so pay attention, and you're doing a great job. So thank you to all the beta testers and uploading the videos and testing. This definitely helps the Tesla AI team to improve the software. Secondly, I would like to give a big shout out to Alexandra and Tesla Movement Papa. He's not here right now, but these are the best people. One of the best people that I have met in the Tesla Twitter community. And I'm pretty sure the wider community is also great. And I would urge everybody to get involved, discuss, debate on Twitter, make some new connections and friends. I think a life well lived is a sum of all these different experiences and all these different connections that we make along the way. And I am totally enjoying my time in Santa Barbara. I have never been here before, so if you have never been to Santa Barbara, definitely come visit. It's an amazing city.
Yeah,
Wow.
come visit us.
Yeah.
We all have long-standing invites to be taken out for coffee and treated by
Exactly.
Alexandra, right?
It is.
Okay, Jeff, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I'll do the kind of the overview from my perspective. This is a supervised driving. You are the supervisor. If you sign up for FSD beta, which I have it on two of my cars, you sign a release that you are supervising the driving. You're following all the signs. You're following the posted speed limits. You are accountable. So FSD beta isn't. You say, well, FSD beta did this to me or that. That's you're accountable for the operation of the car. FSD beta is an assist feature that's rapidly improving that you've decided to install on your vehicle. And other companies run beta programs, and they also have similar kind of releases that have to be that are signed to that effect. And it's illegal leasing, but it's also kind of like, this is how we're running this program. We understand the quality of the software. We understand the quality of this solution. We understand the quality of human driving as well. And we understand the variation in human driving as well. And the net effect is going to be a much better product, already 5 times better than human driving, per miles driven, which is the right way to look at this. And the net effect is going to be, less people being seriously injured or dying in a vehicle. And that, I mean, to slow or get in the way of the net effect of that, people aren't thinking logically if they want to do that. If you're thinking logically and you're looking at the data and you're looking at how the program is being run, you actually would want to accelerate the rollout of FSD beta because it's safer than the existing population it's going into. And again, I do want to make that point about all humans are not created equal. So if we can normalize the performance of the 90-year-old driver, again, nothing against older people, to the 16-year-old driver who's maybe inexperienced, that in itself is a huge win within itself. So none of us on this broadcast are saying that this is an error-free process. This is perfect and everybody should love it. None of us are saying that. What we're saying is that this is going to rapidly improve one of the biggest human tragedies that occurs on this planet today, which are vehicular accidents. And the approach that Tesla is taking, from a quality perspective, from a safety perspective, and the problem statement they're going after is tremendous. They should be applauded. FSD beta testers should be applauded. They should be careful. You control the vehicle, you control the results, and I think this is a great process and system that we're all experiencing today. And appreciate what Kellen and Tesla Boomer Mama did this weekend, kind of dissecting the situation as well. You need to drill deep on some of these situations, and I really appreciate the work that they did.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yep. Thank you guys very much. So my final words that we are watching history in the making. This is something that's pretty incredible, right? Nobody would have thought possible that a computer or a car would know how to drive itself. It is almost a matter of just time. Most people will now say that it's a matter of time. It's no longer if it's going to be solved. It will be solved. And it's going to be solved just the way the Tesla is doing it now. But now that they've launched Dojo, which is their supercomputer, the ability for the neural nets to learn how to solve these edge cases will happen one by one, and we're going to get there sooner than we realize. So this is happening, and I appreciate everybody, and I think it's worthwhile for the world, and that's what we're doing. So thank you everybody for watching, and appreciate you, Alexandra and Nikhil, for spending the time last night to redo that test to show us the actual scenario. It's a bug, it's an issue, but there are certain conditions when it's a real issue, not all. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.